All right, what's up, everybody? It is Zombies here again, and today we are back with another episode of the Fighting Pit podcast. This is a kind of return from our little brief hiatus at the end of the year for the holidays, and we're really excited to get back into it and start talking more Mercenaries. As always, I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Mullahoo and Tangster. How y'all doing today?
Doing fabulously. For those that are on YouTube, they can see that I'm in a new space. We've got I've been absolutely so insanely ludicrously busy lately. But I know everybody is, and everybody has been. But so I'm super stoked to get back on the horse, start streaming again, start playing Mercs again, start playing some standard too. But we'll hold off on that for now. But I'm just ready to get back into it, honestly.
Awesome.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back. Same background over here, but I had like a 2 weeks completely dark off the internet, like nothing, no signal. It was actually wonderful, but also ready to get back into it. Very hyped, very excited to talk about some of these community events we got coming up. Been doing some helping out with content for a couple of our creators, which has been an absolute blast. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get into the details.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know I was talking with Dallas a little bit, and he mentioned you were helping him out with some overlay stuff, so that was really cool.
Nice.
And that's definitely one thing I love about the Mercenaries community. Just people are very interested and friendly in terms of just like kind of helping, especially like other creators out, because, you know, we're all trying to build up this scene for this mode that's still very much in its infancy. So
absolutely,
community.
It really is a sharing type of community, and yeah. I love that. It you know, maybe I'm jaded because like it's our community, right? But it does seem like a really nice little niche of the wider Hearthstone community.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really great. So speaking of community, we have our little community news section to start things off. A lot of stuff has happened in the short time we were away. So let's see, what do we want to start with today? I think what would be kind of fitting is if we start talking about the recent event we did, right? It feels like forever ago now, right? But
yeah.
We did the Pauper Open, and that was a fantastic experience. That was just like, I had
Wild
so much
success.
fun doing that. We had so many people show up, and everyone who showed up, both players and viewers, really seemed to enjoy it. From everything we saw, the new format felt really fresh, and we're going to dive into like all that stuff like a little bit more in depth a little bit later on in the show, but I figured now we'd just cover it a little bit briefly. Me and Mullahoo ended up doing the casting thing. I was actually a last-minute kind of fill-in. It was my first little casting gig there, but it was super fun. And, of course, we had Tangster behind the scenes doing a ton of work, not only organizing and running the stream and kind of keeping me and Mullahoo in the loop, but also organizing and dealing with 16 players who were trying to play in the tournament. So that
were all wonderful and very, very patient with me. And if I learned anything from this tournament, it's that I'm going to need another partner in crime, or Zombies, I'm going to have to yank you back into the green room, and Mullahoo's going to have to find someone else to share the spotlight with.
Do that.
Yeah. That was messy, but we got through it, and it seemed at least the feedback I got from chat, Twitch chat, and some other folks on Twitter was not noticeable, which is good because I was literally typing in OBS in real time. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Parentheses. Sorry, I suck at OBS. So.
No, I mean honestly, considering like the pretty insane technical difficulties that we had to deal with, I think we did a great job, and Zombies certainly did an amazing job on cam for the first time there. I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's normally not a one-person production event, and we managed to pull it off, so I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I think it went great, and I was really impressed with everybody, and it's one of those things where it felt like back when we used to go to our friendly local gaming stores and you know, play some D&D or some Magic at night. And everyone was just so happy to be there that it was very easy. Like, oh, shit, I forgot my lands. Yeah, no worries, you can borrow some of mine, man. You know? Like, or the
borrow my
stores
duels.
offering them. Right, exactly.
No, I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
what is
of this,
going on?
a
Now it's
16-person
just-
event was honestly so perfect. That's something that's
Oh, yeah.
continuously taken me by surprise is how long these games go. I mean, we're playing like best of 3s, best of 5 sometimes, but like Mercenaries tournaments are long affairs for a very small tournament like this. I mean, it was double elimination, so we had an extra round, we had the bracket reset, we had people going down, dropping in, like getting that second life. So it took a little bit longer, but I personally am a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
As long as we can still, I mean, it still turned into like a 5-6 hour tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And ever since Leaf in the first tournament lost the first round and then ran it all the way through the finals, I've wanted to do double elimination. The downside is it is very involved, so I think what we'll probably do next time is have the first round of everybody kind of run off stream and then get everyone synced up for losers bracket round 1, winners bracket round 2. But I won't bore you with the details of actually running a tournament behind the scenes. You come for the Mercs content, and we'll definitely talk about the Pauper meta a little later in this podcast. But there's some other really exciting community stuff to talk about first.
Very true. I think one of the first things on our list is actually a change that happened a few weeks ago, and that was a change made to kind of how getting legendary coins from bounties works. Do you guys hear about that and how all that stuff went?
Yeah, with the guaranteed legendary slot for heroics or level 30s or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's only for level 30s, but now if you are doing a bounty and it is level 30 or, well, I guess there isn't higher currently, but if it's level 30 and one of the rewards is for a legendary merc, you are guaranteed to get at least one roll on coins for that merc. And so, like, that's a good, like, that's cool. On the surface, good change, right? Like, I think that's, like, an overall, like, positive thing, positive intention. But I know one of our fellow mercenary creators in the community here, Old Guardian, he actually does some really great PvE content stuff, and he took a little bit more of an in-depth look at it. And what he found was it actually makes things a lot worse if you're trying to get epic or rare coins. So
there's also a bit of a less variance in the legendary coins, which for those of us that have crappy RNG is, this is obviously a good change. But the thing I took from his video or Twitter post, I don't remember which it was that if you were someone in the, let's say you are slightly luckier than average on your rolls, you are missing out on a pretty good chunk of legendary coins as well, because they slightly nerfed the max roll for those coins, and then they lowered the floor for the lowest roll. So I think you can roll as low as like 5 or 10 legendary coins where it used to be 15.
Oh, okay, I see. So in terms of like lowest or highest rolls on, like, because I know I did get 25 like once or twice, but I don't know if that was like a long time ago or recently. I don't really remember. But yeah, so again, this actually kind of reminds me of another thing we're going to talk about, which is kind of the issues with matchmaking and MMR stuff right now. And I think, this problem with the coin change is kind of similar to the issue we have there, in that the intention was good, right? Like, I think they had a good intention, but it just wasn't executed like 100% in the right way to like deliver on that intention. And I think it's something they could definitely like iterate on and improve or fix. I'm not really sure how they do that with the legendary coin stuff. Maybe just mess with the weighting a little bit. Maybe give back those higher roll amounts, or change it in some other way to make it easier to get the other coins too. I'd love if you could choose something like that, but I imagine it's a little bit trickier for them to like. They actually have to add real UI stuff into that rather than just changing some stuff on the back end. Obviously still very doable, just not as doable in like an immediate hotfix, right?
Right.
That could be one of those quality of life changes we might be getting next week or 2 weeks or something like that real soon. I mean, there are so many things that could just be, like you said, just like tweaked a little bit, that when they actually do have the right intention and the right execution, I mean, that's all that we need. And so I'm really curious to see what we might get in the next couple of weeks, because there's supposed to be some changes coming down way back. I think it was like a month ago. They announced this like pathway over the next couple of weeks where it was like 2 weeks, they were just going to wait, see what was going on, and then give us an update, and then actually change something, and then new mercs. And that was all supposed to be running throughout January. So now it's January. So some big changes should be coming because, yeah, as you said, we are in a little bit of a lull state at the moment when it comes to Mercenaries. I don't know if it was just a function of the holidays, but there were certainly... we haven't really had anything change internally inside the game. Sure, the meta has changed a little bit. Valeera is still absolutely everywhere. True. But otherwise, not much has changed, and so I'm definitely excited for changes.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have that shake-up.
For sure. I was curious what you guys thought about the kind of MMR stuff, because I know we haven't really talked about that too much. Like I put out a video on it like 2 weeks ago or something, just to get people a little bit more aware of it. And one of the people on that asked if we could talk about it a little bit. So I'm curious what you guys think of like the MMR changes. Like I know for me, I think the intention was good, right? We remember season 1 where it was just like impossible to get to that 12k chest. You had maybe like 5 people do that or something, like 10 people across 3 servers. It was just way too much for like what's supposed to be like the highest rank reward, right? And so that was a common complaint, and they tried to fix it. They did a good job making it easier to climb without like just keep getting knocked back down, but unfortunately they made it a little too easy to climb, and now we're getting a lot of people maxing out at 14k MMR, and it's kind of making the leaderboards not matter a whole ton. So I'm curious what you guys think about how that stuff's been going. You want to start off, Tangster?
Yeah, so it definitely has turned things into a bit of a race, where you've got folks like, really a lot of the folks you expect to see on that first page of the leaderboard now are doing a almost, Diablo or Path of Exile style ladder race to try and be the first one up there. And it really does kind of reward a
grinder mindset.
A lot of games.
Yes, for sure.
It rewards playing a bunch, whereas, if you could take an 80% win rate before and play 20, 30 games in the month total, you could probably get up to, 7, 8K.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have these guys having to jam games at like 50, 55% win rates, and because of that, there's less experimentation, which is, as we've talked about many times, the best part of Mercenaries, in my opinion. And it just really seems like if you're not on that grind, a couple hours a day, every day, you're not going to have a shot at that first page for the month.
No, definitely. And I mean, even I'm looking at the leaderboards right now. Yeah, it's 4 days into the season or whatever it is, and we already have people hitting the 14k, like in
seriously
days.
Someone hit it already.
Someone is at 14k on, at least on Americas. We have Uku at 14k already, Kruna's at 13k, and then it drops way off for rank 3, which is actually kind of cool. Then it drops down to 11.6. But just like really quickly, APAC, no one's hit anything on no one's hit 14k on APAC yet. And in Europe, I'm sure only one person on Europe, but one person is within like 2 games or something. Sensor is also way up there. So yeah, I mean, to me, that is a really bad sign for an MMR system, right? Like that people are hitting, it's not like you're hitting rank 1 in standard where it's just like, okay, you are just the first one there. It's literally people like in like 4 days, they just turboed from 0 MMR to 14,000. And now if you're that person, there is literally no incentive to play. If anything, you're incentivized to not play. And that is, again, Mercenaries, I think, suffers from a very unique problem where the absolute most vocal people in the community are the people in the like 0.01%. And for standard, it's actually not that at all, which is kind of weird. That if Mercenaries has this bizarre element to it where like everyone that talks in every other format actually just isn't talking here. And it's the people that are like Team America or Dallas and all of those people, Sign of Times, and everybody up there that's saying like, oh, there are all these problems. And the issue with that is that if you're Blizzard, do you really care or respond heavily to the 0.01% that is caring about your game? Like not in the same way that when you have 80% of the people talking about it in standard or wild or whatever it is. So yet another odd little barrier to the Mercenaries format and the Mercenaries community, but I definitely think, at least, so long story short, My opinion about the MMR stuff, I was gladly released from MMR jail when I was getting like plus 30, minus 30, and I was just hard stuck.
Yeah.
Now, again, it kind of went too far in the other direction. I would rather have it be this way. So I'll take it. Like, I'd rather have it be that people are just spiking it out. Exactly. And so they are unfortunately still two evils. So those are my thoughts, that it's a little awkward, but fixable.
Yeah.
I just think for a format like this, you're looking at a numbers change, right? You're looking, and we don't know what Blizzard is thinking in the back, but from where I'm sitting, if you can hold a 50% or better win rate over multiple games, then you should be moving maybe steadily upward. And then that qualifier, that steadily, is really what we're arguing about at the end of the day.
Yeah. Definitely. It's basically, I think they just need to find a kind of happy medium between the two systems. Before, it was a little bit too difficult to climb. Now it's probably a little bit too easy. So we got, Goldilocks it, find the just right formula there.
Exactly.
Because as you got unlocked out of MMR jail, I felt like I kind of got put in it last season because I didn't. I played a little bit in the beginning, but I didn't do a ton of climbing. But for those who don't know, Mercenaries and how it ranks you, Mercenaries has some really weird stuff in how it determines the ranking stuff. And with that, it kind of seems to heavily rely on, at least from what I've seen, internal MMR. Because if you notice, you get a lot of the same players. And the thing that was, I guess, frustrating me a lot last month was, so I hadn't done a lot of early climbing, and like Mullahoo just mentioned, people, it's the 5th, and we have people at 14k, so people were getting their climb grind on, and respect to that, but when you're getting matched up with players between 12 and 14k MMR when you're at 7, it really makes climbing kind of depressing, because I'm not gaining, I think you gain a little bit more for that, but it's not like the extra gains you get are so little for facing someone so high above you MMR-wise. And most of those people, because they're people we were like playing against in the first season, are people who are really good at the game. So it's not like you can't win against them, but it's a lot harder than, let's say, if a new player grinded out a comp, got it all set, the internal MMR is most likely going to be matching them into more newer players rather than people who were like super highly ranked internally before. So that's one. I know Team America talked about this issue like a bunch when he was still doing a lot of Merc stuff. I think he's taking a break from it right now. But yeah, it's just that has been definitely, and I've talked with some other members, not like directly in the Mercenaries community, but like in the broader Hearthstone community who might have an interest in the mode. And they said that was one thing that was kind of unappealing, seeing like running into the same person multiple times in a row. It kind of turns the game into almost like who can counter who almost, right? And there's a kind of fun element to that in one way. Like it's kind of like tournament play, where you're trying to pick a counter, but I think that's a little bit better left in tournament play. And I don't think that is necessarily like the way they want us to be grinding the ladder. Like I like seeing variety, like Tangster was mentioning. And unfortunately, when you run into the same person over and over again, a lot of times same comp, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't an issue like we had at the very beginning where you're literally queuing the same person 5 games in a row. And it was more like every third game Dainu was showing up. And for me, I don't mind that as much if I'm not playing back-to-back-to-back because it gives me a chance to run it back. And as we've talked about so many times before, there really aren't any like 80-20 matchups in Mercenaries. You're not going to queue beasts into Frost and you're just like, well, I'm totally screwed. There's no way I win this except, some lucky RNG coin flip. And it is more like, okay, what plays can I make differently? So I don't mind that as much, and I think the folks coming from ladder, that would bug me definitely a bit more playing standard, where things are a little more polarized.
Wait, does Beasts hard crush Frost or the other way around?
No, that was a wild example.
Okay. I was like, I don't know.
It distinctly does not, because Ice Block just fucks your whole crush combo up.
Yep.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I don't think
Trust me, anytime a new comp comes out, I what do you call it? Stress test it against beasts, just to make sure it's up to snuff.
They'll come back one day. They'll come back one day.
It will.
And
will.
it'll
Hey,
be
Trigor
glorious.
is only getting better and better. I've seen more Trigor, and the last time I saw Trigor was with some Valiras, and that was doing some cool stuff. So it is definitely not
yeah.
off the table yet. And again, if we're getting
sure.
new Mercs in 2 weeks, especially if the new wave, I guess the last wave of Mercs wasn't necessarily, like, they didn't necessarily share any identities between, like, the pirate set was
Yeah.
here are the pirates. But this last one was kind of just like a bunch of random Mercs. I would I wonder what they will do for this next chunk. Will they give us another like tailored set? It doesn't line up with any mini sets or anything, so they probably won't. It will hopefully just be another patch of like random Mercs. Because I'm also hoping that at this point, the devs have like a sea of mercenaries that are already designed, that are ready to go, and they literally say like, all right, we're going to give them this one, and we're going to give them this one. Like that, this seems like a perfect mode for that. I would love to be a dev for this type of game because it seems like you literally could have designed like 100 mercs over the last like year or two, and then just slow release them. So I'm hoping that's what it is, and I'm hoping that then that gives them opportunity to kind of like very decidedly say, okay, this deck needs a buff. And instead of giving them a buff, we're going to give them a literal card. We're going to give them a whole merc. So we're not going to change any numbers, but here's just another one to help you out. Like we were saying, that Arcane Protector or another Beast or who knows, another Frost guy, another Fell guy. So that's what I'm hoping for in this next patch is an amalgamation of mercs that will fill some holes. That's what I love.
That'd be cool. Or the amalgamation merc. That would be
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm still the
types.
Curator, Arcane Protector, the Curator. I'm calling
him
it
in.
now
Sick.
when it happens.
put him in.
I love the Curator. I have a gold Curator in regular Hearthstone. I loved that card when it came out. That card was so cool. That was good times. Good times. Shoot, train of thought went out the window there. What was the last thing you mentioned, Mullahoo? Because I had something to say about it, and it just disappeared.
Jaina ice block being my least favorite thing in the game.
No, what was
I
it?
swear, I'm literally more triggered by Jaina now at this point than Valera. I was saying it before. Maybe it's just because maybe it's because I'm not playing the Valera decks, right? I think Valera probably has an okay matchup against Jaina because you actually just get to like run a fighter. And again, I'm coming from a biased perspective where do you just body Jaina? Okay, so again, that's just coming from a narrow
on the
deck
Valera
comp
comp
for me.
It depends a lot on the Valera comp.
Heavily.
Like today, or I guess this is going up on Friday, so it'll be like yesterday, right? But I'm putting out a new comp vid. So I played a few games beginning of the year with like old Valera Frost, which, it was like Valera, Vard, and Jaina. And the only thing that was not great about that is you can't combo Valera turn 1. You have to Fan of Knives, right? Well, once you like climb like out of like the lower ranks and you're starting to see a lot of Valera again, you cannot like just leave Valera there on turn 1. She will die. She will die every turn. Yeah,
She will die by speed 3, turn 2 every single time.
Right.
And it's not even close. And
Because they're already 0 at that point. Like they're
Exactly.
0 when you're starting your turn.
Exactly. That's the
sneaky.
problem. So the thing with that is I have seen a new build. I think it was popularized by Censor on EU. Dallas was playing a bunch of it, and I have a comp vid that just went out on Thursday about it. And it's taking a new look at Frost with Valera. And so what you do is you actually put Varden back to the bench, and you sub in Grom. So you have that Grom-Valera combo for turn 1, and you just have your Jaina there. Just start off the scaling, and the really cool thing about this comp, like the thing I liked about Frost was it was almost kind of brainless, where it was like I didn't really have to think unless it was a snap turn. You don't have to think a whole ton about what you're doing.
Buttons.
It's just like, I'm just going to press these same buttons. It's kind of like Beasts, right? Like you just press the same buttons and you know what's going to happen.
I resent that.
But yeah, so the whole thing with it is with this version, it is much harder to play, in my opinion. Like it took me a few games to figure it out. You really have to time your Varden well, but if you are able to do that and kind of like protect the Jaina decently by kind of baiting them to focus either Valera or Grom, it's just like you can run away with the game. Just
Spicy.
The cold snaps in the mid to late game are so much more impactful than a cold snap in the early game. And it's not close. It's like the difference is huge. You also get more opportunities for cold snaps because you're swapping in off the bench when mercs are already damaged. It's just a lot easier, and you already have some frost damage built up with Jaina since she started out there on turn 1. So it's felt really good. And then you got Diablo and Karen in the back to round it out.
Right.
Is that running the... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mull.
No, I was just going to say, does it also have Karen Diablo? Because I love being able to stack like Endurance Sora with the...
Exactly.
Just like having all those overlapping synergies with the Varden, and just Varden coming off the bench is sick. Like, what are people...
Gross.
I mean, I guess when you see the Jaina, then you might start thinking about it, but it's no guarantee by any means. And being able to suddenly catch people like that, yeah, that seems sick.
And if you lead that and your back three is 1-1-1, I'm immediately going to think you're running CDC.
Yeah.
And that is not always true right now, especially with Blinkfox really kind of coming up for that Karen Diablo sidekick. But at the same time, I am not thinking Varden is back there, even if you're leading Jaina. So it's a bit of a bamboozle, at least until people get used to it. And honestly, I was kicking myself because, correct me if I'm wrong here, Zombies, but Varden is still running the Death Rattle there, right?
So the version I was
Death
playing...
Rattle, do 8 damage, freeze an enemy minion till end of next turn. So, because I tested almost this exact comp shortly after the Pauper tournament because we were talking about the... there was a little bit of a janky comp going around where you ran the Band of Frost, the +3 spell damage every time you freeze a minion on Varden. And so you would bring him off the bench to try and set up a snap when he came off and then ramp him quickly that way by basically starting with, +9 frost damage and then just hammering people. And that was awesome, but setting up a snap immediately was tricky, and the fact that I didn't stop and think, well, what if we already had that spell damage pre-ramped? I have to give so many props for who'd you say built that originally?
I think it was Censor the Clown on EU. Really good player. Yeah.
Well done. Some damn good building.
I would not have come up with this, and having played the old version and the new version, it's like night and day in terms of power level, I think. It's just especially if you're seeing a bunch of other Valera, you need a way to combo your Valera on turn 1. Now, might it still turn into a turn 1 coin flip? Possibly, right? That's like a very real reality with Valera, and I actually just uploaded like a little 1-minute clip where I was playing someone named Hearthstone, like their in-game name was Hearthstone. And they lost the we both had Valera Grom and nothing else to combo our Valeras. And they lost the turn 1. We both went on each other's Grom to, deny that Valera combo. And they lost the flip and literally just insta-conceded the game.
I don't blame them either.
Yeah,
and
I don't
it's
either.
Funny because Hearthstone is one of those that I see pretty regularly. Our MMRs must be close, and they're always on the top of the leaderboard. And I have seen that from everybody from, people who may just be starting that aren't all the way leveled up to, folks like Hearthstone who we're seeing in the top 50 already this month. Where you lose a Grom coin flip and you just, I'm looking at them. They're 26 as of this recording.
I did not know that. Wow.
But definitely not the only one to concede on one after losing a coin flip. And that sort of thing, we covered this a little bit in our last episode. The 0 mana coin flip or the 0 speed coin flips just don't feel great. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get back into the balance of why, but I totally understand kind of the lull people are feeling because this meta hasn't had any really, this is the most interesting shakeup, right? Zombies, I know you did a really cool fire video last week, which was novel and fun and really interesting to play around with, but at least maybe I'm too small brained for it, but it didn't feel like I could have kind of pushed the leaderboards with it. Orcs is another one that has really caught on, I think, since we last recorded, but that's kind of it. I don't know, Mullahoo, have you seen anything new that you knew?
The newest thing I would say is all the Tyrion stuff. I think Tyrion suddenly became a lot more popular for opening bench stuff. I mean, people are just slowly realizing the equity that is hidden in these mercs that actually can just hang out on turn 1, and you're just like, do I really have? I'm really gonna spend an ability on that. Really?
Right.
And that squeeze is so important. And again, Varden is kind of one of the OG examples in a way, but now Tyrion's showing up. I really like it, and it's been a lot better than I have been expecting to see. And what's also kind of cool is that Tyrion is really good at countering Mukla. which
Oh, yeah.
is a natural Valera counter to an extent, and because now you get the guaranteed. I'm pretty sure it's guaranteed, at least in most of the games that I played, where you can get that Divine Shield your team on the monkey.
Yeah.
If you don't, depending on what you send the monkey into, and if they can choose to do it in the right way, they can set it up to get Tyrion to kill that. It was a lot of times like Tyrion Frost tends to be a thing. Those types of
seen that
setups. And I think the monkey literally has like not enough health to damage itself to not have it just get instantly killed by Tyrion, and then you just Divine Shield your Jaina, and then the turn after that, your Blessing of Kings, the Jaina, and she has another Divine Shield and just keeps stacking. I've been pretty impressed with Tyrion, honestly. So and Illidan on the bench. That's the other one that has just been absolutely sautéing me. I'm playing a weird build with 4 casters, and so I can't really talk. But Illidan continues to stand out as one of the most, if not one of the best mercs in the game.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think the Tyrion Frost comp definitely kind of surprised me how much it caught on. Like I did a little video testing out a similar thing, but I was running Rag in the back over Illidan just because I wanted to play with Rag. But
I love it.
Looking at it more objectively, like if you're looking to min-max those Tyrion buffs, you want it on something that can attack, right? So I've run into a lot of that Frost Tyrion with it's like Karen, Diablo, Illidan in the back, and it feels really strong. I think it and the other Valera Frost one I mentioned are probably the 2 best Frost comps in the game right now, from what I've seen. Like they are just,
I believe that, because I mean, really, what it was like Lich King, I guess it's okay. I've always been like pretty unimpressed with Lich King, honestly. He's like a solid like 7.5 to me.
Yeah, he's an interesting, like, he's gonna hit you with speed control, and so if you come up with us, if you're up against a front line that really wants to be spamming the same ability over and over, he really shines. But if you've got any flexibility in your front line, Lich King does not hold much fear for you. Obviously, again, he came back to light because of the Valera counter, right? She's very good into Valera, very good into Grom for slowing those 2 important abilities down. But besides that, it's fine, right? But back to the Illidan thing. For those of you listeners that are playing on a budget, I have been doing a lot of budget building in the last week or 2. And depending on when we get our blog post, we may or may not talk about that a bit next week. But if you don't have Illidan and you want to try this Tyrion Frost comp, my best suggestion is to take my girl Vanessa Van Cleef in his place. And I will tell you why. Because in the same way that Illidan is going to keep getting bigger and scarier, Vanessa's going to do the same thing, albeit in a very different, much slower way. But I've had some pretty early success running her with someone that can buff the bench, whether it's Guff, Tyrion, mercs like that, and then bringing her out, because what she really struggles with is a lack of stats. She's just pretty low on stats as it goes. Right, she's a little squishy, and her attack is not high compared to some of the fighters like Illidan or even like Varian with the Charlemagne equip. And Tyrion kind of fixes that for her, and now suddenly you've got you run that first equip, the one that sets her her skill 1 ability, the Burgle, where you're attacking in and then stealing attack from a mercenary. That starts to get really scary if you set that at speed 3 with the equip and always combos, so you're always stealing attack. She gets really frightening really quickly. So try that budget option, listeners. Let us know on Twitter how it worked for you. It worked pretty well for me. It's definitely not as good as Illidan, but if you're not throwing a bunch of stuff at packs, there's your free-to-play swap
option. No, and honestly, the next tier up of semi-free-to-play, but that isn't Illidan, is Skyadler or Rogers. Honestly, I've also started to see a little bit more of, and weirdly has a similar scaling attack. It seems really weird. Like you almost forget that she just gets like +5 attack whenever she attacks. But her with the Tyrion buff and awesome synergy with Diablo already, you can potentially get away with literally just like her instead of Cairn, and then you still play your Diablo, and then you have another flex slot open in your bench. I think that Skyrim Rogers definitely definitely is starting to be respected a little bit more. And is a cool, again, these are almost like 3 different options, right? We gave like a protector, a caster, and a fighter.
Right.
So depending on what your comp wants to be, right? These are maybe
Yeah.
3 different options for what color you want
There
to
you
fill in.
go.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think Skywalker Rogers is another cool example of a merc on the bench that with, again, their stats are pretty medium until they start scaling. But if Tyrion can make that first jump for you, then it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's true for sure. I've actually been wanting to try out Sky Admirable a bit more, but she's one of like the last 4 mercs I need to finish leveling, so I've been putting it off. But I think she fills a very similar role as Blink Fox in some ways, in some comps, where you're kind of using her on the backbench to combo with Diablo to get off those faster Diablo fire stomps without having to have Karen out, because you can just make him go next at 2 speed, which is pretty good. And I think her AoE effect can be very strong if you're maybe running into stuff that is trying to slow you, especially. So you can just kind of punish them for making you go last, assuming she survives, get damage on everything. And it's pretty significant, right? It's like 25 damage, I think, for everything.
I got my board wiped. I was running Cornelius, Illidan, Valera, and they took out my Cornelius, brought someone else in. I had dumpstered like 2 of their mercs, so I had 2 fighters and I think probably Cookie out. And out of nowhere, just 50 damage onto both Valera and Illidan. Valera died immediately. Illidan got cleaned up that turn, and now I'm just looking at a Cookie and a backbench all of a sudden in a 2-merc swing, and I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I think if you can set her up right, if you can protect her just long enough for her to get to that 6 speed, especially against all of these speed control comps with Valera, I think there's something there. So definitely worth experimenting with.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think she can crit a bunch of blue guys and green guys for 50 necessarily, but the Apocalypse, I've seen even just the fact that you have Diablo out there
I was
with
running
her.
orcs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I must have been running
Garrosh and
orcs.
stuff like that,
I must have been running orcs because she's a caster, which I always forget. It's
right. She doesn't
very. Yeah.
She's a weird merc because she just attacks. For some reason, she just has attacking in her kit. But no, I mean,
I
one
like it.
ability that can do upwards of 75 to like 125 damage or something on it. That's ludicrous. That is truly
absurd.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I mean, it does have a. Does it even have a cooldown?
I
don't know
I don't
offhand. I think it does.
Does it literally not?
I don't know if
I'm
any.
literally gonna
It might
check
have
this.
one. It might have one. I think.
It might have one because it's like
definitely
kind of a
got
blade dance kind of thing.
I
so
don't
I'd
think
be
you can
surprised.
pop it turn 1.
Yeah, I don't
if
think
I
you
remember
can
correctly.
either.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, that'd be
Cooldown
crazy.
1.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's why
what I thought.
that's why she's so good off the bench.
Right.
Yep. Like a lot of other units, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of her once. I mean, I know it's been a little while since she came out, but again, like, if you're in a position where you've had all of the mercenary stuff, like, done for the most part, or at least, like, maybe not leveled all the way, but at least, like, had all of the actual mercenaries in your collection around launch or a month after launch, it's just really hard to get those coins because there's not a lot of incentive to open packs right now, really. It's better to just kind of, if you already have everything, just opt to save them for future releases, as we do know that new mercs will be retroactively added to the old packs. So I don't know about you guys, but I have like a little bit over 50 or something saved up right now. So
About that.
I have like 8.
And then,
But that's
like,
enough.
4K gold. Which
Yeah.
Probably blow. But, and we did talk about this a little last time, which, I think we all agree that we have hit a little bit of a lull, which kind of, I think, brings us to the Pauper tournament, right? When we got bored, we made our own thing. So it's kind of one of those really good timing to have something like the Pauper tournament occur. And oh my god, I think I could talk for another hour about the meta we saw develop just within that tournament alone. What zombies was kind of your first impression of how things were built? And did anything surprise you in particular, or was it like I saw this coming miles away because I've graded this game?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what's everyone's like one hot take or their like one favorite thing or whatever from the tournament?
Yes. Yeah. So I think like we all liked this aspect about the tournament. Nobody really knew what this format was going to look like going into it. We had some vague ideas, right? Like we all kind of predicted Karen and Samuro making it in because they have access to really good equipments, and they're obviously both not legendary mercs. So that was kind of the one aspect I didn't find super surprising. What I thought was interesting, though, was those mercs, though they're really powerful in Pauper, they didn't feel like, at least in the games we watched, like super format warping to me. Like, obviously very good and worth including on a number of comps, but I don't think they were as required as I think many people thought they might be going into the event. And the one thing that kind of surprised me was that looking at the representation of what was brought, we can see that Varden was actually not brought very much at all. In total, he was only brought in 4 lists out of 16 players, and I believe only one of those had a main board Varden. The rest were in the side.
2.
2. Okay, so even split. So 2 in the main board, 2 in the sideboard. So 4 players, 25% of the field. But I think, and I'm just taking a guess here, I'm guessing some players, one, they were worried without Jaina, he might not be as good. Which, fair concern, right? You don't get that scaling, which is very powerful. But 2, I think the bigger thing is, I think people forgot his Death Rattle is not a Task 7 item. We did have a list of everything, but it is a lot of items and stuff that is banned, because obviously there are a lot of Task 7s in the game, one for each Mercenary, and then all the legendaries. So I think some people just may have overlooked him because they thought, well, without Jaina, and if I can't run his best equipment, then maybe he's not going to be so good. But turns out that his Death Rattle is not a Task 7 equipment, so you can run it. And as we saw in the event, it was very powerful.
Bonkers. Yeah, absolutely bonkers. And it was, well, I'll save that for the next part. Mullahoo, hot take. What you got?
My favorite part was the pretty cool little like triangle, like ring around the rosy of what people decided to take for taunts. I think people very quickly realized, like you said, okay, there are going to be Karens, there are going to be Samuros, and whenever you see Samuro, you go back to the day one theory crafting and you go, all right, I got a taunt. And it turns out that there were actually still a lot of good taunters that were still legal, right? Like we still had a Cornelius, we still had, even though there were no Task 7, but we had Cornelius, we had Mutinous, and we had Cariel, mostly. Those are like the 3 big ones. And then there were Karens and stuff. So that was like one little group of kind of taunters that went back and forth. And then alongside them was often the other rotating package of, do you kind of, for your Samuro activator, is there a Zarella or a Brightwing? So really it was kind of like Cariel or Mutinous, and then Zarella or Brightwing, and there became these really interesting back and forths where it was like, oh, if you're the one with the Zarella against a Brightwing, then the Zarella was really favored. But if you were a Brightwing against some of the other comps that Zarella is supposed to be good against, Brightwing was actually better because the heal was more relevant, the stats more relevant, and we saw very regularly Zarella having to target someone that couldn't attack. And then you just wish that you had a Brightwing at that point, basically. You weren't really healing. And so there were really cool intricacies going back and forth of, like, again, is Mutinous better because we want the color? Or is Cariel better because she just gets bigger and we want that color? Those little back and forths I thought were really cool, and kind of like we were saying before, there was no clear blowout, like, obviously best Merc or obviously best comp. Not at all. And this really honestly felt like what Mercenaries should kind of feel like, I think. When you took away the like extreme variance of the really, really, really powerful mercs that were almost, like we said, kind of meta warping or meta defining in that sense, it became very interesting when it was all just the middle. And so I like that a lot.
Yeah. I'm totally going to cheat on my own question because I have 2 things that were my favorite. I have to call out Lepton here because I think they brought my favorite comp that I got to see. I think so. It was the front 6 was a Samuro, Tyrion, Brightwing, Sky Admiral, Cairn, Vanessa Van Cleef with Mutinous and Mutanus and Blink Fox on the sideboard, and I think they ended up tying 2 games using Brightwing's heal, just rotating the heal where she tries to send herself back to bench, which she won't if there's nobody on the bench, and the skill 2, which is just that big blanket kind of slower AoE heal. And it was at least 1 game they were able to tie, maybe 2, but this is the closest thing we've seen to kind of like that wall, that protector style comp, where instead of the Sylvanas way that we use to tie games with the death rattle by just bumping it up and you just sit her in the back line as insurance, Lepton came in knowing that they had an out where if things started to turn on them, they could start stalling with Brightwing really effectively. The second one is, and for the main board alone, we had 33 different mercs show up, and exactly 27 showed up in 3 or less compositions in the main board.
Wow.
Which blows my mind. That is
huge variance, honestly.
Yeah.
Huge variance.
A lot of
you have Samuro, Cairn, Brucon as our very clear winners at Samuro and Cairn tied in 10 separate 10 players brought those on the main board. Brucon at 9. Then came Cornelius, Zyrella, Cookie in that order. And then it was just madness everywhere. It's incredible. And there was this 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 people who brought a merc that nobody else brought. Which I thought was so cool. And some of those people made it really far.
Yeah, no, it was really... It was crazy.
I can't choose which is more favorite. Like the cool new archetype that we had never seen on ladder, or the fact that everybody wanted to try something that maybe interested them, when they first saw the mode released, and suddenly, it's like how you see all the card reveals for standard. You try your jank deck on the ladder day 1, and maybe it works for a day or 2, but then things start to refine and it gets blown out of the water. And that's what we got to see kind of come to the fore, and see how those worked a little bit in a vacuum, where we got to smooth out the power curve a little bit, and it was brilliant.
Yeah. No, it was...
just kidding. I have my cheat answer too. My other secret cheat answer is the fact that we saw regularly, and it do really well, the Millhouse, Cornelius, Tyrande, Arcane combo. That looked so clean in a low power level format. That was so fun to see an actual factual combo deck come together in a Pauper format like this. It was one of the ones that we theory crafted and posted about, like, in Lou coming up to the tournament and saying, like, please someone take this. Multiple people took it and did really well with it. Again, Wizard Beast went pretty far with it. And then Chico also had it. So yeah, like the fact that multiple people brought that deck in particular was probably my other favorite part about it, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing. It was so cool, and Wizard Beast had a exceptional run up to the finals with that list. Like, it was just
undefeated.
Yeah.
Didn't drop a game until he got until the script took over, the Davidson script.
Should we talk about the Davidson script real quick? Who wants to take that?
Oh man, that
freaking
was
comeback story.
That was unreal.
It's got to be one of you two, because I only got to see the end of this because I don't think I watched a single game until we were down to like round 3 or 4, because I was just coordinating everything, and then I looked back and suddenly like the bracket looked insane, and it was so cool.
Yeah. No, honestly, actually, so there are a couple things about it, so I'll take the story real quick. So one of the first ones, just talking about the Vardens that we talked about before. Only 2 players brought the Vardens. One of them was Davidson, and then the other player that brought it just lost their round 1, and then lost their round 2, and was out. And that looked as if Varden was just maybe not it at all. But then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Davidson ended up going on a 14-0 game win streak. Absolutely unparalleled. I don't think
insane.
I'm wondering if it's a borderline record for like a competitive streamed event, and this kind of like for people are trying, there are things on the line, it's live. Go 14-0. That is an unbelievable achievement, and so that was so cool. But the other really cool thing about it was that if you look at the bracket run that they had, they win round 1, but then they ended up losing round 2 to Noob, I think it was. And they were just automatically in losers bracket. And then we were coming into another round where it was time for a rematch, actually. And Davidson was in the chat and ended up saying, like, this is who I lost to. Like, I'm just dead. I'm already dead. It was like round 3 or round 4 or something.
The exact quote from the Discord was, I've got my Gary Oak coming up.
and so yeah, he like just straight up had played the game already, got 2-0'd, just sauced. He was just like, I'm just dead. And then we were talking about it, and then they started and they changed things up. They hit him with the switch up that we talked about, and then they ended up winning. And then they kept winning, and then they kept winning. And so they just turned on the script, killed their villain, and then killed everybody else on the way, got the bracket reset, and took it down. Truly an unbelievable run. Super props to them. Well, absolutely the coolest narrative of the tournament by a long shot.
And for those like me who didn't know what a bracket reset meant before this, essentially Wizard Beast got to the grand final without dropping a game. So had 0 losses, right, from didn't drop a set either. So that meant in order to not win, Wizard Beast had to lose twice because it's a double elimination. You got to take him out twice. And Davidson did exactly that. So, and actually 4-0'd Wizard Beast across 2 separate sets in the final, which was just
it was crazy,
mind-blowing to watch.
It was,
and Wizard Beast is good. He is the one who beat me soundly in the Battle for the Bounty way back when. Feels like a year ago, but was actually like, I don't know, October.
Yeah, right.
Last year.
Yeah,
no
right.
Slouch,
Last year.
I can confirm.
That was super duper duper cool. And yeah, like we said, Wizard Beast, no slouch. And you might think that it's common to 4-0 like that. Like to get a bracket reset, a lot of times it tends to either be like an insane scrap where it's like a 3-2 and then a 2-3 or something like that. Yep. Or it's the other complete end of the spectrum where it's like you just have a great matchup, you just go 2-0, it's over. But in Mercenaries, and like we saw with Davidson himself, when you play that many games, or you have that many games available to you, that's on Wizard Beast to be able to find those opportunities to mix it up. You've got a sideboard, you've got some mind games. Like you have lots of room to try to make some moves, try to switch it up. But the fact that it was a clean 4-0 is just, again, a testament to the script more than anything. So props to everybody. But
and a huge testament to the skill of Davidson and the tenacity, because just playing 14 Mercenaries games in a row alone is difficult. I don't know about you guys, but around game 6 I start to autopilot, and earlier than that if I'm tilting a little bit. But
that's definitely
he was on a roll.
True. It's
and he took home the grand prize of 14 packs with our runners up taking home 7 each, which was great. Absolutely thrilled to be able to just anything to feel like you're getting a prize instead of just like, okay, you won.
Bragging rights.
Bye.
See you later. Adios. And actually, secret, sneaky, I'm not actually going to say anything about it. But if you like prize pools and you like Mercenaries, stay tuned. Not the fighting pit necessarily, but stay tuned.
Ooh,
secret
exciting.
Drop.
Very exciting. Speaking of
listeners, we have no idea what Mullahoo is talking about. Well, maybe Zombies does, but I have no idea. So now I'm over here rubbing my hands together like, what is he brewing over here?
Start rubbing and start practicing. That's all I'll start saying.
We're going to have to edit that out for content reasons, Mullahoo. But I am hyped. I hope it's not Pauper, because I have had some spicy Task 7s that I've been playing with out of mostly boredom.
Yeah, and the great thing about Pauper, and one of the main reasons we kind of wanted to try out Pauper, other than just doing something a little different than what was on Ladder, is accessibility, right? Something I am definitely going to kind of beat people over the head with metaphorically, that, this game needs better accessibility if it wants to realize its true potential. In similar games, I draw a lot of comparisons to Pokemon. The thing that kind of stifles that game's competitive scene, even though it's kind of much bigger than Mercenaries, it's still not as big as it could be, and that is because of a barrier to entry, right? And I've talked about this a bunch with people in the Discord, Mercenaries Discord, but basically what I think it comes down to is you need to let people try this PvP experience in some way where they can get the full experience without having to invest hours of their time. Be like, hey, I enjoy this. I might actually want to put time or money or both or whatever into this mode because I'm enjoying myself. When you force people to go through that grind first, it's very, very hard to get someone to do that kind of grind when they don't even know if they're going to like the thing at the end of that kind of grind reward, right? Like, that's like a huge, huge thing to me. because the gameplay in Mercenaries, like, yeah, it's changed a little bit with Valera. Some would argue for the better, some would argue for the worse, but it's neither here nor there, right? Like, the biggest issue to me is not balance, or even though it is a big issue, the MMR system. To me, it's accessibility. So I think that was one of the great things about Pauper is if you wanted to play this tournament and you didn't have a bunch of like the meta mercs maxed out, you could still throw something together and give it a shot. And now, don't get me wrong, you're playing against some really, really good players, so it's not going to be easy. But if that's something you want to do, there's more of a path to do that. So that was one of the kind of goals I wanted to mention from this, because I think hopefully in the future that we do get some kind of accessibility changes. I know one idea that I really liked, I don't remember who mentioned it to me, but someone mentioned what they really need to do is implement some kind of casual queue, right? They can keep kind of the ranked ladder queue as it is, but if they implemented a casual queue, and in the casual queue, no ranks, nothing like that, but any mercs you bring in there could automatically be scaled up to either max or just their highest level abilities if you don't want to go fully maxing them, right? And I think that would just let people kind of mess around, low stakes, low investment with the game, just to be like, hey, these are the mercs I started out with. What does it feel like to mess around in PvP? And it would give you much more of a closer experience to the real thing than you get from facing the PvP bots, because that is just not an accurate representation of what the game is like, especially now that more mercs have been added. It's just not close at all. So
no, it's like again, to not to murder the Pokemon metaphor, but it's like playing Battle Tower and then expecting to go be able to win VGC, right? The video game championships, the kind of like World Series of Pokemon. Yeah. It is, those are two different things, and if you are just practicing against what is essentially a target dummy and not fighting against a real opponent, you're just not going to be ready to compete. And so I totally agree, and we will continue beating you over the head with this, listeners. Accessibility is key, but that's why you'll see us running a whole bunch of different kinds of events, because we want you all to come join us and play with us, regardless of how much investment you have into this game, right? Just grab your 6 or 8 level 30 mercs and come hang out, sort of thing.
Definitely.
No, I definitely think everything that I keep thinking about when it comes to like my dream for Mercenaries is just a way to be able to say, I know that you don't have everything. Here is a way to temporarily have everything. I think that I honestly can't think of any other solution. No matter which way it's actually implemented, the true pie in the sky dream is that you somehow combine that with a tournament function, right? Like that would be ideal, where if you could just have like, okay, you can let all the fish into your tournament if you want. They've never played before, but you can go and play this weekly event or this daily event or whatever it is, and you get to play with a full comp. You just get to temporarily for however many hours or in a very kind of finite area or just in a very finite space, like you can't take it to ladder, like a casual queue, or it has to stay in the tournament or whatever it is. Even literally just being able to play against your friends, right? Like just being able to say like, I have a full collection, share collection, you can build whatever deck you want and play against. That would be amazing. So anything like that, that's all that we need to do. Exactly.
I think the renting the team that Pokemon has done was a really good idea. They introduced it in one of the recent of the recent generations. You can go to kind of the PvP area, and there's an NPC that'll give you like 4 very basic teams, right? In a similar way that each class has its own deck lists in standard.
Yeah, and like the core deck list or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So, and most of them have like mediocre items. Their stat spreads are okay, and their moves are usable. But it is competitive at a low level, so you can feel what it is like to actually fight people for real. And then you can put the time into leveling your own team up, because you obviously can't make any edits to that team. You are taking this specific thing, and you can use it as is or not at all, your choice.
No, I love that. Yeah, a rent a comp, like you just go in there, even if it's not like you said, even if it's like here are 4 deck lists, right? Pick which one of these these are the deck lists for this week. It's like a free champion rotation at League too. Like there are so many precedents in so many games. Just pick literally any of them. Pick literally any of them.
That is actually the best idea I've heard, Mullahoo, and for
Yeah, I
someone
like
who
that
played
one.
Heroes of the Storm for so long, I don't know how I didn't think of this already. Of course there should be a free rotation for Mercenaries, because that lets you use the ones that you already have and still get to play with some new ones. So you're like, okay, is this worth buying packs for? Is this worth grinding out?
Yeah,
And look,
that would be
Blizzard,
great.
don't give them everything. Give them level 3, 4 abilities and maybe 1 equipment. Maybe just the level 30, or if you're feeling generous, maybe the, task 2. Whatever. Put whatever restrictions you want on it. The point is they need to be mostly competitive. Right? Let's not forget that Wizard Beast won Battle for the Bounty with his rag only having 1 ability fully maxed out. It is entirely possible.
I didn't know
and I
that.
plan to prove this at some point. I'm kind of waiting for them to tell us what's going on, but I've been doing a lot of free-to-play brewing, and I was challenged by someone who participated in the Pauper tournament to hit 7.5k as a free-to-play player.
Ooh.
So
Cool.
you all can expect that experiment to go up pretty soon. Actually, I can talk through the comp I'm looking at right now if you guys would like. Is that interesting
Yeah,
to folks?
go for it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So this, Pauper had me thinking, right? How do we take Pauper and apply that to ladder to a certain extent, right? If our goal is to make things accessible, well, okay, let's take a look at what the free-to-play mercs out there are at the moment, and there are some good ones. You see a lot of those paired with some of the more powerful legendaries in the meta comps, right? Let's nobody forget Samuro Zyrella still exists, and that is a good combination. And we saw in Pauper, Brightwing works also, not a free granted merc, but a rare. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to build something that will do okay on ladder, using only rares and epics and free mercenaries. So thankfully, Gromash, though a legendary, is free once you complete kind of the tutorial. So I came up with, and I'm pretty proud of it so far. I got 5 of the free mercs into this comp.
Ooh.
And it was surprisingly easy, and the last one is a rare that could kind of be swapped with what you have. So the lead I'm using is Blademaster Samuro, Zyrella, and Gromash, which,
Solid.
again, all 3 mercs we know are powerful.
Yeah.
Nobody that shouldn't surprise anybody. And I was really fighting about Gromash, but you really want him in there to contest
Yeah.
a Valera meta on
like
that all-important 2. And that turned out really well, because having to decide, all right, do you kill one of the 2 activators and leave Samuro to do his thing? Or, do we focus on someone who's not hitting me in the face as much? In the back, I tried a couple of things, and what I landed on is Tavish, who is also granted, I believe. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Tavish was not granted. I changed this after the fact. I had him as Rokara initially, and she's still very much viable in the back line. Don't get me wrong. It's not wrong. I just personally liked Tavish better back there. And Cookie, obviously, probably one of the most powerful rares. Nobody's surprised by that. And my girl Vanessa Van Cleef was awesome off the bench coming in. And y'all have to remember that she is free. So all you need to do is log into Hearthstone once during the Fractured and Alterac Valley expansion, go into the Tavern Pass free track, and just click on her. And boom. Free Vanessa Van Cleef. So now you have a comp where 4 of those mercenaries are just handed to you, and 2 of them are rare. And my goal is to show up on EU or some new server and get to that what seems to feel like the first milestone for a lot of players once you get out of bot ranks, that 7,500 chest.
Yeah.
I am holding off on that because I'm really hoping we're going to get a
This next
very
year.
nice quality of life patch, and it's going to change the new player experience. But if that's not announced for this month, you can expect me to be talking about that towards the end of this month and giving updates. So really excited to do some actual free-to-play brewing. I don't think I'll stream it. I'm not consistent enough, but I'll do my best to try and film it and maybe chop together a YouTube video or something at the end, kind of going over it all. But you all will get weekly updates on how that's going once I kick it off.
Awesome.
No, yeah, I would love to hear like the total percent time, or like just the total amount of time, especially if you start on like a brand new account. That would be an awesome number to just to be able to tell people is like, no, it took me 30 hours of gameplay to go from new account to 7,500. Like some whatever number that is, even if it's horrible or if it's great, it's just great news. Whatever it is, I want to know, and I think that people want to know. So more than anything, that's the number I would really love to hear.
Oh yeah, I will be putting together a Google Doc and kind of probably tweeting that out so you can see my real-time win rate, because we don't have a deck tracker or anything like that, and I do want to be honest. I don't want to have to come up and say, yeah, I totally did this with a 65% win rate in 2 weeks and not have any proof. And I got to figure like, okay, even though it's me writing this stuff down, because I don't think anyone wants to watch me do the entire thing. I'm hoping that gives it a little more credibility than just kind of like saying, yep, totally did it, 60% win rate, no problem. You guys are just complainers, right? So, but yeah, and hey, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe Blizzard will find this useful to help tweak that new player experience. But the wider we can open this front door, the better.
For sure.
And I'm actually curious. So, question for you, Zombies and Mullahoo, about how I'm going to go about this, because I was fighting with myself. Okay, do I do it just inside of Mercenaries, or if with a fresh account, am I going to go start, hit ladder real quick, knock out all of those new player quests, load up on that gold, and then use that to go buy packs? That feels disingenuous, just because I would say the average person trying to get into Mercenaries is not picking up Hearthstone for Mercenaries, right? There's someone who's playing a different Hearthstone mode regularly and is like, oh, Mercenaries looks cool, I should check that out. So that feels kind of disingenuous, but at the same time, if that person was me and I had some gold lying around, I was like, I'll throw 500 gold at this new mode to see if I like it. Maybe what do you guys think?
I think.
What do you think, Zombies?
It's an interesting idea, and if you're specifically like making a new account for it, I think it's like not a bad idea. But it's also something important to remember. Like that's probably not what a lot of players are going to do, and I think it's
right.
I think it's important you brought up that, like, right now, I think a lot of the players we're getting in Mercenaries are a lot of people who play or played a different mode in Hearthstone and either continue to play that or maybe stop playing that as much and we're looking for something new. But I think this mode could, again, with some more accessibility changes, it could do really well trying to market itself to a new audience outside of Hearthstone, because at least from my very, very limited time as a content creator and having watched like people do stuff for this game for like 8 years almost, Hearthstone is definitely one of those games where, and I feel this way too a lot of the time, people have one, maybe two modes that they like a lot. And there are rare kind of, I almost want to call them unicorns, that like a little bit of everything. But especially in terms of people who are watching Hearthstone content, from what I have found, it's one or two modes. And for a lot of people, it's primarily one mode, whether that's standard, BGs, duels, arena, whatever, right? And so I think because of that, it creates a little bit of this like tribal mentality where it's like, I like this one mode and I don't care about these other modes. I don't want to start investing money or extra time into that because, it's not what I like. And it can be easy to get into that kind of groove of just doing that one thing. And that's why I think they need to make Mercenaries more accessible to kind of get people, one, who are in Hearthstone who don't have a reason to check out other stuff. Like, one of the worst decisions that I think could have been made was requiring any kind of gold for the building up your like little tavern thing in the Mercenaries.
Oh, yeah.
I hated that decision so much.
You can't even PvP until you throw, 250 gold at it, I think?
200-300. It's not a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like, the problem the problem is not that it's a lot of resources. It's that, especially if you're a free-to-play player, those you only get so many of those resources a week, right? Depending on how much you play.
It's hard to get gold now.
Yeah, and it's like if you're a standard player and you want to be grinding for packs for standard, now just to even try this mode, you have to invest, 3, 4, 5 standard packs. And that's just a total gamble, right? Like, obviously, packs are a gamble, too. You're not necessarily going to get what you want, but you're closer to finishing out, especially with dupe protection, your set. And dust, yes. And so, like, but again, the constructed format of Hearthstone has been iterated on for, 8 years. And it was certainly, from being around from the beginning, I can draw a lot of parallels to where kind of Mercenaries is now and where Hearthstone was at the beginning. And there were a lot of things they could kind of improve on and do better. And we saw over time they did end up doing that. It took time. Didn't happen in a day. But we really did get a lot of very important improvements, kind of like dupe protection and changing the rank system and all that kind of stuff over time. So especially now that we've heard
way later, and people forget that.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's easy to forget, right? But so that's one thing where it's like I don't mind a little bit of patience, especially as long as if we're getting mercs every month, I think that's pretty good. Valera, for better or for worse, changed the meta a ton. And even though she can be really frustrating sometimes, I really like this meta because some things are just viable that just could not work in the past, 3 deck meta or 3 top tier deck meta. And Orcs is one of those where I've just been loving Orcs. There's nothing like one-hit killing a cookie fresh off the bench with a 35 attack Garrosh. There's just nothing like it. In Mercenaries, it is just so satisfying. It's like, you want to snipe me, cookie? Well, you're getting sniped instead. And instead of 10 health, it's 70. So I know that was a little bit of a rant there, but I do think it's important to kind of talk about that stuff because, again, we're very much in kind of the beginning of this mode, and I do think, obviously, the beginning, it's not to say the beginning isn't important. I think there were some missteps made that definitely can and should be corrected over time, but it's by no means, as some of the Hearthstone Reddit likes to claim, a dead mode, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that Cariel Rome wasn't built in a day. Mm-hmm. And to go back and to answer Tangster's question just about whether or not you should go for the spending the gold on the initial packs and stuff like that. I think we kind of answered our question right there and saying you kind of have to actually spend that gold on leveling up your camp. I'm not even sure you'll have the option to spend that gold on packs.
Because it gets really inefficient. I forgot this, and I don't remember where it started, but the campfire has to be leveled up 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, to get enough of the task board things. I remember saying really early on, I was like, you just have to do it.
Yeah, and especially when that was the main mechanic for time boxing, for slowing people down, was getting those daily quests. Obviously, Mysterious Stranger farming was found as a faster way, but the intention was there, and you can tell, which is why there was a little bit of that pay to win, I think, where if you want with 4 daily spots, I think you're gonna have to invest a little bit. So I think I will have to, right? I think I'll have to do that new player experience for kind of all of the modes. I think you get a free arena run and a free duels run on your very first account.
Truly min-max it.
And so then I can bust out 12-0 because I'm a 12-win duels player now, if you guys didn't know.
Big deal.
And you bring that gold, and it's probably not going to go to packs. It's going to have to go to leveling up the darn camp, which is a really cute little mechanic until it isn't, because it's one and done. I forgot it was a thing, and it's yet another barrier to entry.
And this is one that kind of affects those players who you mentioned before are probably the players, at least in the beginning, most likely to try this mode, are people who are already engaged with Hearthstone. And when that barrier is there right away, especially for more free-to-play friendly players, it's just I can't, if I try to put myself in their shoes, and it's I can't justify investing this without knowing if it's actually going to pay off for me, in terms of enjoyment. So that's one thing. And I think that kind of compounded with the issue of when Mercs was first revealed, there was a lot of uncertainty and people weren't super clear about the mode. So I think combining those two things together made for a bit of a rockier launch than it really needed. And the one thing I really, really wish they wouldn't have done, or at least have done it differently, and I've been talking about this with a few different people, is Air Elemental, right? For those who don't know, early on in the Mercenaries grinding meta, I think it's 1-2 heroic is Air Elemental, and that was kind of the most efficient way to farm strangers. You would not always, but you'd pretty often get a stranger very early on. There weren't many things to complete, so it was very fast for grinding out your strangers to get the tasks. And that lasted about a week or a week and a half, and then a hotfix came out where they were basically like, hey, we don't think this is how players should be like grinding things out, which makes sense, right? You don't want your end game grind content to be early game content. That doesn't really make sense. But I think the problem with that was the end game content was too time consuming relative to the low amount of rewards it was given. And though that has been improved a little bit, I think the big thing is when they changed that, they really put off a lot of people, at least from what I've seen, who were interested in the mode, who were grinding the mode. They already acknowledged, it's a grind. I'm not big on the grind, but I'll get through it because the mode looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to enjoy the PvP. Yeah. But I know at least probably like 5 different people who, when that Air Elemental change happened, they said, screw it, I'm done. Like, I just, it's already this much of a grind and they want me to grind more. Like, this isn't acceptable already. And that, I think, if you're going to get rid of something like that, you got to give people something to replace that, like, right then or right after. And unfortunately, we really didn't get that.
And it does make sense in a mode like this. Yeah, it's going to be a little grindy. It is kind of the game, right? You don't go and play a game like Diablo or World of Warcraft without expecting to have to grind a little bit.
For sure.
World of Warcraft is, let's take World of Warcraft PvP. If I want to play a mage in PvP and I do not have one at max level, I have to grind one up. And that is fine, because as soon as I hit max level, I can jump into Battlegrounds and like run my face into whoever, and it's not quick, but I'm going to at least be playing PvP and actively working towards making that character better for the thing I want to be doing the thing I want to be doing, right? It is obviously fun to be powerful, and the more powerful I get, the more fun I'm having and the more competitive I feel, but I don't have to go run, the early dungeons at, what's the max level now? Like 110?
Something like that.
Like 110 level dungeons for blues, right? Even though I have no interest in the PvE content. Again, Mercs is different. This is not a perfect metaphor, but I think the point is there. Battle Tower in Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
Not indicative of PvP, but still PvP-ish, so I don't feel like I'm just kind of running on a hamster wheel doing something I had no interest in doing, so I can finally do the fun thing.
Exactly. Those are the words. Those are the exact words, right? The PvE stuff, it can be cool. In its current form, I do not find it to be engaging or interesting. Maybe a little bit of the heroic fights can be kind of cool and make you think a little bit, which I like, but there's no... That's the other thing
definitely.
That was weird to me. Like, it seemed like this game was geared more, and they even admitted they weren't expecting such interest in competitive PvP, right? But they were aiming, I think, for more of the PvE crowd, but what really confuses me about that is if they were aiming more for that, it surprises me that there really wasn't much of a PvE end game other than PvP. Like right now, you have heroic, which some of the heroics can be pretty challenging, but once you get some good mercenaries leveled up, most of them are pretty simple to take down once you kind of figure out the gimmick. And there's I think we know through data mine stuff, like more tasks are coming and supposedly some kind of a legendary bounty, something that we know nothing about. But at least on release, it didn't feel like there was any endgame content for PvE, and kind of PvP was the endgame content. And that just seems like a confusing choice to me, because it feels like the people who mainly like PvE probably aren't as into PvP as is the reverse is true, right? Like A lot of the people who
Yep.
really like PvP aren't as big on PvE. That's why a lot of the people I know stopped grinding, was because they wanted to play that PvP, but they had to get through so much of the PvE in the beginning, it just burnt them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love it if there were actually two kind of distinct pathways like that. Like, I honestly really wish that we could go back to the air elemental days. That felt like the cleanest form of...
Yeah.
I agree.
don't care about the PvE, so give me an option to shortcut it and go to PvP. I'll spend the time to just do something dumb, but it didn't even feel that dumb. Like, honestly, the feedback reward system from the air elemental felt like almost exactly perfect to me, and it sucks that they killed it. But I would love it, if there was actually just a meaningful separation between, like, all right, if you want to PvE, then here's this interesting thing and this interesting path. If you want to PvP, here's this interesting thing, here's this interesting path. At the moment, they've kind of just jammed them together, and that does feel bad.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think that's something they're hopefully going to figure out more with time. We do know,
I think so.
actually, that Mercenaries is going to be having a dedicated team now. For anyone who didn't know, basically, I think Ixar said this on Twitter, the Hearthstone team is kind of undergoing a bit of some restructuring, and whereas before they were, I think, kind of pulling people from different elements like design, art direction, all that different stuff that goes into
Wild.
Yes, well,
Yeah,
the
pull
one
whole
person who
Wild
runs
team
that.
Over.
Yeah.
We're all working on
Johnny.
Mercenaries now.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
But yeah, so they have, obviously I think they have over 100 members total on the team now. So they're doing some restructuring and having certain dedicated teams. And he did mention that one of those dedicated teams is for Mercenaries. So I know that a lot of people aren't the happiest right now because we haven't gotten a ton of communication in the last few weeks. And I think that's more than anything just a bit of unfortunate timing due to the holidays and stuff. But I do think that going forward, I think I could see a bit more regular communication, kind of like we were getting in the first, month and a half, 2 months of Mercs.
And that does seem to be their intention. But I will stop with the kind of accessibility discussion. Listeners, I will tweet this list out with equipment, and I'll also give you kind of insight into how I've been iterating on it. So say you don't have Cookie maxed yet and you want to slot, I don't know, Rokara in for Tavish or something, right? I did try a couple iterations of this. And when I start on the new server, I may not be able to run this comp if I don't get lucky with my packs, right? The very limited amount of packs that I'll have to be working with. So I'm really excited to try this. I'm really excited to give you guys, for those of you who have been watching this mode and saying, well, it looks like a lot of work, I don't want to invest this much time, a little bit more of a concrete idea of how much time you're looking at to actually get yourself competitive on ladder and start that momentum. Because the game really does have some momentum, and once you have a comp or two that's good on ladder and can start farming PvP, it does feel much, much smoother than it does when you first start.
Definitely.
So all of that being said, what did we had a little end bit to talk about. Do we want to talk about the pole zombies, or did you have something else queued up?
Maybe we can just do a little speed run of the poll, and then I got a fun little ending question for us that
Okay.
I was going to do before the end of the year, but we're just going to do it now instead.
Sure. So I will keep this very brief because I've already put it on Twitter. So I stopped streaming Mercenaries because I wanted to focus more on these community events, Pauper being the first, which I thought was wildly successful, in my opinion. Bunch of viewers, 16 players, and of course my co-host agreeing to cast. It was a great time.
Super fun.
We're going to keep doing these events. I put a poll out in late December, just kind of asking the Twitter community, hey, what kind of event would you be interested in? Got more answers than I expected, which was great. Overwhelmingly, people want just a ladder rules tournament, which, you know what? You ask, and we will deliver. So the first 2022 event for the Fighting Pit Opens will be ladder rules, and we'll see how that goes. It should be fun. Same thing as Pauper. We're going to cast it. It's probably going to be single elimination because I do expect there to be a little more interest than just the Pauper. You will see Pauper Redux after we get a couple of more new rare and epic mercenaries dropped in. We're planning to do that in the spring. Secret event for the summer that we're not ready to talk about yet. And in autumn, we're hopefully going to have the reason, besides having fun and interacting with the community, to do all this, the Fighting Pit Open. Format TBD, but the top 4 from all of the events we'll be doing in 2022 will be qualified for our Open. Really trying hard to get some cool prize pool stuff for this. Not sure what the format is going to look like, because we have to appeal to both the ladder folks, the Pauper folks, and our secret third mode folks. But yeah, get really excited, and we're going to have so a total of 12 players able to qualify. You can only qualify once, so if you happen to hit first place in all of our events, sorry, you get 1 qual. And then we'll see who's next behind you. And then we're going to send out a couple invites to some community folks. Ixar, if you want to come play in the Fighting Pit Open, consider this your invite. I'll hit you up on Twitter closer to the date, DM you late night. Don't worry about it. But thank you to everyone who responded to the poll. It was incredibly helpful. The one thing option that was on there that I don't think I can help with is running an event for our EU friends and listeners. However, I think we have some folks over there doing their own thing. Dallas ran an invitational right before the new year, and so it's great to see that EU is going to get some of these community events as well, because as it stands right now, there is not enough interest over on that server for us to kind of justify run-in for, like, as much as we'd love to come play with, like, the 6 of you who came back and said that would be interesting. Unfortunately, I just don't have the time.
It's just tricky, right? Especially with time zones. Like, even with us being in different time zones, it makes things not super hard, but just a little bit more difficult. So adding in an even bigger time zone gap for EU might make things a little tricky. But like you said, Dallas hosted a EU Invitational recently. That was a awesome event. I don't know if it's posted anywhere yet currently. I know he wasn't sure if he wanted to post it, because Dallas is from Australia, actually. And so him doing a EU tournament, it ended about 5 a.m. his time. And so near the end of his tournament, he actually, I think, fell asleep once or twice. And so his and he was the spectator, right? And he was the one streaming it. So I think it was Mythic who was going basically casting for the event with him, and Mythic kind of had to, like, shout him awake once or twice. It was honestly hilarious. It was if the VOD is still up, go watch it. It was good content, and I'm gonna pressure him into posting it eventually, because it was a great event. Like, I understand being embarrassed about falling asleep, but it was really funny, and it was a really good event. Like, I think Frankie was actually the person who won that event. Yeah. He hops on Dallas' streams pretty regularly. Really good player, and I know Dallas mentioned having more stuff in the works soon. Initially, I think it was going to be a second invitational, but it sounds like he has some new ideas brewing, so they might be putting that off and doing something else. But bottom line, basically, there's interest for doing other things outside of ladder, and especially now with the ladder system not being the greatest, I think it's incentivizing a lot of people to try new stuff like tournaments. So definitely keep an eye out for what we're doing with that stuff here. Keep an eye out in the community. One place I definitely recommend going for this news, other than listening here with us, is the Mercenaries Discord. They actually have a channel dedicated to tournaments, so usually when something's going on, usually someone will end up posting in there. So that's a good way to be informed outside of following us on here and Twitter. But yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing all the fun stuff we're able to do with Mercenaries in 2022. The year is young, the mode is young, and I'm curious to see where it is going to go. But we talked about a lot of stuff today, so we don't want to go on too long here, but I figured we'd end with a kind of fun question, and this is one I was thinking about going into the new year. I thought would be a good one to end it with, and it's probably just as good a one to bring in the year with. So a little bit, I know we all do some gaming outside of Hearthstone, right? So I figured it'd be fun to ask if you guys had like one or maybe like top 3 games that really stuck out to you and you really enjoyed in 2021.
I'll go really quickly so I know that Tangster can go right after that. I've basically only really dabbled with Halo Infinite. It's been fun. It just really doesn't give me the same type of like. It really feels like a game where I was just like, all right, if I want to play this and have fun playing it, I kind of need to grind it and I kind of need to just like get good and just like stop missing my headshots and stuff. So like I play it for fun, but really I haven't done anything competitive in any other game, and I literally haven't gamed in like 3 weeks. So I'm ready to start gaming again. But my short answer, Tangster, have you heard any neat games lately?
I have. Thank you so much for asking, Mullahoo. So, those of you who do not follow me on Twitter are missing all of my comedies. However, the short version is this. Ridiculous Hat did me the favor of gifting me a copy of Inscription, which is a indie Steam game published by Devolver. It is a sort of a deck building game with escape room elements, is the best way I can explain it without spoilers. I don't think I've binged anything that hard as far as like a game with a story that ended since Breath of the Wild came out.
Nice.
This thing hooked me and did not let go for like 20 hours. If you enjoy Slay the Spire or those types of deck building games where you start with a very basic deck of cards and then you get to add to it kind of as you go across the map, kind of dungeon runs or duels style almost. Against Slay the Spire, all very good examples of this type of game. And then you kind of, like, your character is able to get up from the game table and walk around the room and interact with things in the room. And there are, if anyone ever played the old computer game Myst, way back in the day, it's got that sort of vibe to it, where there are things that will make it easier if you can figure out the hard puzzles, and the game is going to kind of prompt you in the right direction for the required puzzles. That's all I will say. You will get into it, and you'll think you'll understand it, and then it's going to blow your head off, and then it's going to do it at least one more time. And if nobody believes me, I will release my DMs with Ridiculous Hat, because he said, hey, you need to DM me your reactions to this game in real time. So you can see over like the week it took me to beat, of just like, oh man, I'm really disappointed about X. Hat, what the fuck is going on? And just like on and on and on, and it's just like after like day 2, it's all caps all the way down.
That's great.
My brain is so. If you, it is like is $12 on Steam through the end of this week, and $15 normally. If you've got $15, throw it at it. If you like games like that, if you need something new, while you're waiting for Mercenaries to get good again, please do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Inscription on Steam.
And go in blind, right? That's
right,
what everyone's been telling me.
Go in blind. Yeah. Look up nothing.
It's a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it. For me, definitely a little bit of Halo Infinite. Have a laundry list of complaints, but the gameplay, core gameplay, when it functions as intended, is really good and really fun.
That's Halo.
And have a lot of nostalgic with that. But in terms of games that really stuck out for me, one of my favorites was Persona 5 Strikers. So that's it's kind of like so the Persona series is a turn-based RPG, and I don't know if y'all have heard of the Mosu games before, the Warriors games, but they're basically, it's almost like a subgenre of game, and a lot of different IPs have been a part of it. Like, I think they did a One Piece game, they did the one with Link and Zelda, Hyrule Warriors. So basically, the whole trend is there are a ton of enemies on the screen, and you're beating up on a ton of them. And it can be really fun, but I was never super into that type of game because I didn't feel there was a lot of depth. And the cool thing about this game is it was actually made as a kind of combined effort between that studio and the studio who actually makes the base Persona games. So they really made it feel like, I don't know if either of you have played the Final Fantasy VII remake, but the combat in that game is so cool because
It is.
original Final Fantasy VII, pure turn-based. In the remake, they actually make it so you have a real-time combat element to it. However, you can basically pause combat to do turn-based actions and queue them, and it's pretty much the same type of thing in this game, and they just nailed it. And the other reason I really enjoyed it was because, at least story-wise, it's kind of a sequel to the end of the base game, and that's really cool because traditionally, even though Persona 5, there are 4 before it, they're all independent games. They don't really. There might be a little Easter egg here or there, but the games don't directly reference each other. You don't need to have played 4 to know 5. They're all like independent like that.
Okay.
But I really loved this game. It was just so much fun to play. They really nailed the story, and I guess having been really invested in the characters from the first game, where I put probably 200 hours in over 2 playthroughs or something crazy.
Nice.
Just getting to kind of go on themes like a road trip with all these characters you spent all this time getting to know in the first game was just so much fun. And that's actually the vinyl I have behind me here. It's from the vinyl from the Royal version of that game, which is kind of like the plus version or the ultra version or the third version of Pokemon, right? When they still used to do that. But awesome game. It's actually one of the free PS Plus games for this month. So if you have PlayStation Plus, grab that because you should play it. Play Persona 5 first, otherwise you're going to be really confused. But really fun game. Highly recommend it. I won't say too much more than that. But that's going to wrap it up for us here. Before we go, do want to let you know where you can find us here on the internet. You want to start us off, Mullahoo?
Yeah, same thing. Twitch is definitely the best way, and hopefully today was kind of a mess, but hopefully the 2022 streaming schedule should be back aboard. NA streams now coming back home. So yeah, twitch.tv/Mullahoo, and same thing, MullahootTTV on Twitter.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can find me also on Twitter at Tangster1922. I also typically am running the Fighting Pit official Twitter, so my account, definitely the best place to get at me, or I lurk on pretty much every Mercenaries related Discord that exists. So if you just walk into a Discord and at Tangster, you probably will find me, so good way to get in touch with me there as well.
Awesome. And for me, you can find me here on YouTube at Zombies Go Nom Nom. Same handle over on Twitter, like Tankster mentioned, Fighting Pit on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with everything going on with us and the show. And I am going to be trying to streaming a bit more in 2022. I still have some computer problems to get worked out, but definitely hoping to do more of that starting later this month. So look forward to that. Twitch is Zombies Go Nom Nom with a Z at the end of Zombies. Might try and see if I can contact Twitch to change or fix that because I would like things to be consistent, but it's not that different, so it's whatever. But that's where you can find me. I do occasional streams right now, and I do daily uploads here on YouTube. And of course, you can always find the show on your regular podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and Anchor, as well as RSS feeds. So yeah, that is going to do it for episode 5 of The Fighting Pit. Felt really good to be back, talking about all the kind of neat stuff that's gone on while we've been gone, and all the stuff we have to look forward to. But that's going to do it for us for this time. We will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.